Right, hi guys, and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be doing the dialogues. I had a couple of problems filming this one. It's going to be all post commentary for this episode, simply because of all the random cutting and things I'd have to do if I tried to do it live. So I just didn't think it was really going to be worth it. But yeah, I tried to film a live version originally, actually, and this is the thing, right? You know how we've kind of had these weird problems with the dialogue because I've already completed it in normal mode, and it doesn't seem to know what version of the explorable areas it wants to play in. And there's a risk of spoilers and all kinds of stuff like that going on. It seems like I tried to film the live episode, and I kind of went to the first two dialogues that you can kind of unlock and find in Winds of Change, and neither of them were showing up, and a load of other horrible kind of spoilerish stuff was showing up. So I kind of took a step back and I thought, right, well, let's just film it, and if we can't find any of the encounters that happen at all, what I'll do is I'll just put in post commentary and read it off of the wiki there. So, but good news, really, I suppose. I filmed it all now, and it's actually only those first two that are bugging out, which is annoying in one way, because if it wasn't those first two bugging out, I probably wouldn't have been put off doing it as we went through the Let's Play. So just to describe what's going on, before filming this episode, I went onto the wiki and I got little snips of maps of all of the dialogue locations and pasted them all together in a slapdog job in Paint, which you can now see on the screen right now. And pretty much this is all of the dialogues, and in order as well. So what I'm going to be doing for this episode is going from all of these locations from left to right, and then down a row, left to right, and down a row. But those three on the far right, on that far right column, those are actually the last three that we're going to be doing. So that's kind of the order I'm going in, and you'll be seeing the footage. And yeah, most of these encounters are actually in the game, and we'll be learning a lot more extra stuff that's going on in the Winds of Change as we follow them through. And actually, there's some cool, interesting little things that you learn. You know, I mentioned the Shirokan. There's actually one of the encounters talks about them and all kinds of stuff. I won't get ahead of myself, but yeah, let's cut actually into the footage of me wandering around aimlessly in these first two locations, just so that you guys get a general idea of where these encounters should be. And I'll read the dialogue off of the wiki, because it's not going to actually appear there, because as I said, these first two were bugging out, but the rest, it's all good. So a bit of a mess, but yeah. Okay, so this is the first one. This is just out in Buckdick Byway, really close to, it's supposed to be next to the Asura Gate. That's kind of the area where it's supposed to be. Obviously, I've only got the map to go by. I don't remember exactly where the peasants were, but it's somewhere around this area if you want to go see them for yourself. It's a very simple little encounter here. It's just a couple of peasants talking to each other. One of them says, "It's nice, isn't it, being able to walk the streets safely again?" And the other one says, "You have an interesting definition of safety. Just because the afflicted are gone doesn't mean that there aren't any other number of threats." And the first peasant replies with, "At least the Ministry of Purity is doing something about it. What's the Imperial Guard done for us lately?" So a lot of these dialogues actually will be kind of referencing the Imperial Guard and what they're kind of doing, and the other ministries as well, which should be quite cool. Just to be 100% clear, it's set up, and really the smart way to have done this Let's Play would have been because of this. Every time you complete a quest, not all quests, but most quests in Winds of Change, it will unlock somewhere else in the world another dialogue for you to see, and that will probably be in reference to something you've just done. So later we'll be on Xingji Island, and they'll be talking about how that's now free of afflicted. That's because those dialogues would have unlocked as soon as we'd finished those specific areas. So I guess, you know, the smart thing would have been to have sort of capped off every episode as we were going through with the dialogue that had just unlocked, but I didn't do that, so whatever. This is the second one that was also bugging out. This is a Y-Jump Bazaar. I think the dialogue here is supposed to be somewhere near these mantids here. It is hard. I loved fighting these guys because look, this looks like massive over aggro, and it's in hard mode, and we just absolutely dominated them. For the purposes of the rest of this, I wasn't even in hard mode. I just went back into normal mode, and all the rest of the dialogues past these two were still appearing, which was really, really cool. So, but yeah, it's supposed to be somewhere around here, and this dialogue in particular has some more. It's mostly peasants. This is really just the views of the common people of what they think is going on really at the moment. But this one is encounter 2 called Political Intrigue Encounter, and there's two peasants. One of them says, "I've been thinking about joining up with the Ministry of Purity, as we know a lot of common people have been doing." And the other peasant replies, "Why would you want to do something like that?" And they explain that they're actually trying to change things. I don't know, there's a part of me that really wants to belong to something like that. "The branches of the ministry just want to take away the Emperor's power," replies his friend. "It's always been like that. What makes this group any different?" And the original peasant says, "This isn't about power. You know what happened to the Udachi family, and you know why it's important to Minister Reiko. This is about preventing any further tragedies. That's all fine and well, but don't blame me if you get your full self killed by pretending to be a soldier. Some things are better left to the Imperial Guard." And that's the end of that one. So yeah, they're going to be mentioning this family. This family's going to come up quite a few times as we go through, and we'll definitely learn more. I love the last encounter here actually, because it ties things up quite nicely. Anyway, this is the next one. I'm walking to it. This is actually really good. You don't really have to fight anyone to get to this, even though it's quite a way away from Tanakai Temple. If you zone from there, you won't have to fight anyone. It's right out in the middle of nowhere. Do you remember, this is the place where there's a collector that one of my first original shields I got during Solo Prophecies was from here, and there's like a cat on the floor. But this is this area. This is Encounter 3, and the peasants say, "Why are you always relying on the Emperor for protection?" And the peasant replies, "I don't know. The guards haven't been able to protect us, but they still want our support. Maybe we should join up with the Ministry of Purity." After seeing what they've accomplished and hearing Reiko and Ashu speak, it really makes me feel like I can do something more. So referencing Reiko again and this Ashu character. And if ever the gods were favouring a cause, it must surely be theirs. For that boy to have survived what he did is truly a blessing. So we've got a man and a woman, as far as we can hear, or a boy and a girl. Reiko's the girl, and Ashu is the boy. So we'll see what happens there. I've kind of rushed ahead of myself there. This is the thing, this whole episode I'm just going to be acting as if I know nothing about the Winds of Change plot, so some of my comments on what we're hearing, you might have twigged a bit more than I'm going to act out that maybe we know at that point, if that makes any sense at all. I just kind of, because these things will be revealed kind of at the start of part 2, and I don't want us to jump the gun, if you will. At this point, when Winds of Change was first coming out, you've got to bear in mind, a lot of us had these names were being thrown around. We'd heard about this Yudachi family. We'll hear a little bit more, obviously, as this episode goes on, but really all we could do at best was speculate about these things. It's a bit hard for me to sit here and then speculate and say, oh, this could mean this, this could mean this, because I know for sure what it all means because I've played through all of Winds of Change. So yeah, I'm just going to sort of play to the lowest intelligence I possibly can, which shouldn't be too hard. The next one here is in Tanakai Temple. Really cool area, actually. This is all that really we're going to be seeing of Tanakai. As you all know, I wanted Togo to have kind of a big role here because his hero actually resides here. And they did add something here, but it wasn't Togo, sadly. It was a dialogue between these guys here. These priests, these Alllll priests, which we've never really heard of before. But one says it's hard to believe, isn't it? It's already been over 7 years since the Yudachi family was taken from us. 7 years ago during the factions campaign. The other one replies, has it only been 7 years? It feels like it was a completely different lifetime. Remember when the children used to run through the temple? So what they're referencing here is just before the plague broke out, which is sadly we kind of got here just after it broke out, so we never saw this. The priest replies, of course, and remember how mad Kiji would get? You must never run in the presence of our ancestors. Walk and observe their memories properly. So that was their dad. As flustered as he got, I'm sure that I've never seen a prouder father. So there was some kind of tragedy with a family that lived here at this temple. Ashu must miss him terribly, they say. Okay, referencing Ashu again. He seems so different these days. We hardly ever see him anymore. Why would Ashu miss that guy? Life changes. It must be so obvious. Life changes and forces people to change along with it. He is growing up in his own way. So Ashu's a bit distant now. What's his connection here? I guess we'll find out. Because obviously this is post-commentary, sometimes I'm going to be standing there like a lemon because I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to read it out in the post-commentary. The next area, though, you see, the nice thing about a lot of these dialogues, and this is why I feel bad about not doing it the smart way after every episode, a lot of them appear just on the outside of a lot of the outposts. Really, they're just, you just walk outside the outposts and the ArenaNet have positioned them quite nicely. Really, there are some that are quite well out of the ways, but even those tend to be, you don't have to fight many people to get to them. Anyway, the next one here is at the Kaineng docks. Haven't been here for a long time. There's Greco. I love that Greco's there, like the Luxon. The peasant says, good riddance, the afflicted, I say. I just missed that dialogue, so hold on, let me pause the footage while we read it again. Good riddance to the afflicted, I say. Now, if someone would do something about those lingering Shiroken, ha! Like the Ministry of Purity would do anything about them. The Shiroken still attack the palace and the ministry. See, all this dialogue goes way too fast. Still attack the palace and the ministry seems content to leave it to the Imperial Guard. So yeah, they establish here that the Shiro can still attack. Watch your tone, says the peasant. The ministry is working for the good of us all. Really now. Maybe you need to learn a thing or two about how the real world works. Sometimes doing good for others is really doing good for yourself. Interesting idea. So yeah, that's them mentioning the Shiroken there. I was wrong before. They do actually mention the Shiroken and how apparently they are still lingering around. Interesting that, I suppose. I guess the idea is, though, that now they should all be gone by the end of the Winds of Change storyline. I mean, I can't imagine them not being gone at that point. But there you go. That's that little bit. The next area we're going to be going to is Sumai Village. So now we're kind of getting to the point where this next dialogue unlocks. I know for a fact this one unlocks after you've completed Minister Cho's estate because they reference that specific event in this next one. So I like what they did here. I do. But as I said before, and I'll stand by it, I really think a lot of these dialogues should have been sort of spread into the main storyline as it went along. We've seen all the main storyline now, guys. How many of you do agree with me that a lot of the dialogue that was there just seemed a bit redundant, particularly the quest acceptance and reward dialogues. Never offered anything for the plot. There was so much going on there. I feel like they could have offered more of an overall story rather than just all these loosely connected little encounters we were going over. It would have made the whole thing feel so much more compelling, and all that writing that they obviously put in the game wouldn't have felt so wasted. You know, and they put the effort to put these in, but a lot of people don't see them. So yeah, I stand by that. I think that these should have been spread into the story rather than hidden around, even though it is cool to find these little things. So these guards are speaking. These are the Imperial Guard. Did you hear about that group that tried to clear out the old estate, they say? So, like, we get to hear their opinions on the Purity, on the Ministry of Purity. They aren't alone. I've heard other stories of people going off to fight the afflicted. Yes, the common man is rallying. They are learning to fight for themselves. The guard says, whether they realise it or not, this is the Ministry of Purity's fault. They're telling people that change is within anyone's reach. Hope is a dangerous weapon. Any fool can pick it up, get swept up in it, and believe they're part of something more. And then maybe they could die. But the other guard retorts, there's nothing wrong with being a part of something, but these wannabe heroes are causing people to rush into things they aren't prepared to face. Is it really so bad to leave this to the Imperial Guard? Which is fair enough, but then the Imperial Guard don't seem to have done anything for 7 years. And the guard says it is a bad thing when people feel powerless because they aren't involved. And it is their homes that are being threatened, so... You know, it's interesting that even though these are the guards, they kind of give them, you know, one of the guards does agree with the ministry while the others doesn't necessarily. I like that. But yeah, this next one I think takes a long time to go to. You know that monastery above Saitung Harbour? I think I, like, open my map and move the cursor over it in a second. That's where we're going to. We're going to that monastery all the way over there. So I do believe I cut it. So while we're running through the mountains, going over there, there is a Winds of Change quest. Yeah, there you go. There's me pointing it out. There is a Winds of Change quest that mentions this later on. There's the cut that you kind of go back to. But for now, if before you get to that, you come here, there is actually some nice little dialogue for you. I like running over here because you can kind of see the Tengu and the Yeti fighting. I always forget that about the Tengu. And I feel bad because I love the Tengu as a race, but I always forget that they're like these mortal enemies with the Yetis. And it seems kind of the same over in Cryer as well, because the Tengu there are mortal enemies with the Ettins. Maybe they just don't like big, stupid races. But anyway, we come up here and there's two peasants. And they say, at long last, it's safe here on Qingji Island. So this is after we've done all those quests. There are no more afflicted to worry about. Well, there are still Yetis, says the peasant. They'll still attack you, especially if you're carrying a lantern. So what they're about to talk about is in reference to the fact that Yetis can drop lanterns as loot. Actually, now that you mention it, why do they want lanterns so much? Which is actually quite funny because I have always wondered this. And they say there must be some reason that makes sense, but I just can't grasp it. Maybe it's so they can read in their caves at night. Yes, I'm sure that's exactly it. Anyway, my point is that it is now much safer than it was before, excluding the Yetis. What about the Tengus, said the peasant. Yes, because obviously you've got the Sensali about that still hate your guts. And I did little slash laugh there. You know what? This is why no one ever talks to you. I do it again. I love this emote that it keeps your weapons out, especially with my big ass swords there. Even though they kind of cut into my head a little bit. I still quite like that. So yeah, there's that one. Very funny. I did enjoy that. Genuinely did enjoy that. The next one's going to be over in the Jade Sea. As you remember, after the Jade Sea, after the Qingji Island stuff, sorry, we ended up going to the Jade Sea. It's up at the Halcyon, the giant land ship that the Luxons have developed. This is the ship that you go to get the incubator for when we were finding our Black Moa chick and all that stuff. Is over here. Sadly, there's a group of outcasts right next to where the dialogue happens, which is a bit of a shame, bit of bad placement there, I suppose. But so I'll be fighting those while it's going on. But they're just those guys standing near the entrance to the Halcyon. I still can't believe the gall that they would tell me I wasn't fit to call myself a Canthan. Ha! Who does the Ministry of Purity think they are? Just because one person said it, it doesn't mean they all think that way. I can think of some members of the Crab Clan I want to punch squarely in the face. I love that they reference the clans because they don't do that enough. That's different. Just because the Ministry doesn't understand our way of life doesn't mean they can't write it off as incorrect. Telling me that I'm no Canthan because we focus more on our petty rivalry than supporting the Empire. Bah! Bastards. Okay, yeah, I'm just improvising a little bit there. And I read that very fast and I thought, because the dialogue, this is the main problem with Guild Wars. Look at how long this dialogue box is up and I rushed through it. Fair, the fact that I kill Kurzix makes me the best kind of Canthan. I love this. This is the best thing about these little dialogues. You get to kind of get in the minds of the common people and see how they react, because they're obviously... Factions is quite aptly named. There are a lot of factions of people in this game. We've now got another one's been introduced to Ministry of Purity. You've got the gangs of Kaineng. You've got these two factions here. There's so many, and even in smaller lore, you know, the less significant lore, I suppose you can say, they even hint at other factions. Like, for example, you've got what are they called? What are they called? See, this is I reckon if I ever went into a Guild Wars trivia quiz, this would be like one of the questions that they'd ask. There's another gang that's referenced, not gang, sorry, like proper faction, that was a long time ago, like the third, you had like the Luxons, the Kurziks, and then the other one. I think, was it like the Guild of 1,000 Daggers or something? And their references like being the third one. So in smaller lore, there's even more. Sorry, anyway, this is the next dialogue. Need to stop rambling. I may have to pause that and go back so we get it all. These Kurziks are speaking. They say, I wonder, with the afflicted gone, will the forest begin to heal itself? I'm certain there well, says one of the Kurziks, and I'm pretty sure as well. But the question is, what happens because of it? Yes, very true. This is going to change everybody's life. What do you mean, says the peasant. Think of it this way. Our people have adapted to life in these petrified woods. New life and new creatures have found their homes here, like the dredge. What happens when all of that changes? We live in the trees now. I see your point, but there's only one thing we can take comfort in. While our people may have tough changes ahead of them, it's nothing compared to the Luxons. When the Jade Sea thaws, the lot of them will just sink. Wonderful, yes, okay, so they will. That's quite interesting. Thing is, the Luxons had well, it's weird, isn't it? Because the Luxons were a seafaring group of people back when the Jade Sea actually was a sea. In fact, weren't there hints that the Luxons and the Corsairs were kind of two branches of the same people many years ago? So, I mean, I don't know. Will they be able to adapt quite quicker? They still seem quite piratey, even to this day, so... But I don't doubt that the population of the Luxons will probably go down a bit, unless they really do like live their whole lives on ships and find some way to make that work and have whole floating cities. Oh, that would be badass, wouldn't it? Come Guild Wars 2, if the Luxons have got floating cities, like kind of like the Ark from Brink or something like that, that would be so cool. I'd love that. Make it happen, ArenaNet. Anyway, so the next one over here is Bejakan Pier, the other pier. Obviously, we've been to both piers now. I don't know why they put one on each. This is obviously where we were chasing the Corsair, and I believe... Corsair, sorry, the courier, and I believe that this actually triggers after you've chased this guy through as well, so you kind of go, so sometimes it is as simple as you complete the quest and you can run back out and have a look around and you might be treated to some dialogue, but other occasions it will be in areas like, look at the stuff that was on Xingje Island, those encounters there, those dialogues were in the areas that we never actually did anything in. We haven't been to the other one yet, but one later on's in Kinya Province, which the Ministry of Purity dealt with, we didn't, and the other one was obviously up there in the mountains, which we never had either. So it's not always that simple, but I think it's quite nice when it's this easy. So there's a dock worker speaking. He says, first it was the afflicted, then with the Amphar. How is anybody supposed to get anything done? It isn't safe to walk the streets. The peasant says, at least you're not living in the streets. Besides, things are getting better, aren't they? What, does he live at the docks? Sure, they're getting better, but not soon enough if you ask me. The Ministry of Purity needs to be doing even more. Having all of these gangs around is such an occupational hazard. See, I love that emote he just did there as well. Look how long that is. Is that one we can actually use? I don't think so. The Amphar and the Jade Brotherhood shouldn't be the Ministry's problem. They're people, the same as you and me. It should be a job for the Imperial Guard. See, these are just common people joining the Ministry of Purity and killing common people. And it's interesting to think of it that way. I really do think it's kind of weird to think that just any old person could wear a mask for the Ministry of Purity and then have a license to kill anyone they want. Yeah, it should be, but are they doing enough? Oh, I've got to stop rambling. I keep missing this dialogue. Are they doing enough? I'm going to have to slow it down. Hopefully that's not too annoying for you guys. Are they doing enough? Where I come from, if you want something done, you do it yourself. Good on the Ministry of Purity, I say. And I think that's the end of the dialogue there. Yep, that's that one. So, yeah, I quite like this. I'm curious about the idea of this dock worker not living on the streets. What's the implication there? That he lives on his boat all the time? Well, maybe he does. But still, they're pretty much the streets there at that dock. It doesn't look like a particularly nice place. This next area, I got really lucky with zoning into Kaineng here. Did you notice? I zoned into Kaineng right next to the exit to Bejakan Pier, and then I zoned in right next to the exit I want for this one, which is up in Raisu Pavilion, which we've not been to for a while. So if you remember, this is the place, really the best place you can go to speak to representatives of the other ministries, which don't have much of a role in Winds of Change. However, there is actually some dialogue relating to one of the ministries. I'm not sure which ministry it is, actually. I can't remember. It might be Fire. But there's two people up here that you can speak to about it. You don't really need to speak to the... I wonder what quest the Emperor's Hands actually got for me there. I can't really remember. But yeah, it's these guys off on the left. I took a little while to figure out exactly which one it was. Looking back over on the map that I'd drawn from... I love that map where I'd stitched things together. It was brilliant. But yeah, down here you've got Minister Jai-san and that assistant there. And they will start to talk, they face each other, and they say, this news that keeps coming in disturbs me. Why I'm always hearing about the Ministry of Purity has done for or accomplished that. Who are they but a bunch of upstarts? They have no idea of proper order or of their place. But, sir, I think the fact that they're accomplishing things is what makes them so popular with the people. which is very true. But these ministry, they make them look so incompetent here. We accomplish things. Within the last 3 years, I've managed to put into a bill into effect stating that peasants may build no more than 23 of their wretched little huts on top of one another. 23! There'll be no more of this ridiculous 24 and over nonsense. With all respect, sir, how has that helped anyone? It's not for them to understand. That's why we are in charge, because we are smarter and it's our job to lead those who are not. I don't think that attitude is helping us either, sir. Never mind, the Ministry of Purity may be a threat to us in the long run. I might need to start drafting some policies to regulate their actions. If we act now, I think we can staunch this wound within the next 12 years. We'll see who the people think are getting results then, won't we? Whatever you say, sir. I love that. Yes, only 12 years, that's not that long. Jesus, that dialogue though sped past so fucking quick, ridiculous. Right, the next one, we're coming up to the end now, guys. A little bit of a longer episode, I suppose, but it's not too bad. The next one's back out here. You go back to the Zinku corridor, but instead of going into the temple, we're going to go just outside the temple. To, if you remember, the first statue I ever realised you could bow to when I was first playing the game, and acquire bounties from, which is quite cool. But yeah, it's just out here in the Sunjiang district. They're like right next to the thing. I think these are the closest ones possible. So much is changing, says the peasant, these days. Sometimes I fear what tomorrow will bring. Maybe it's time for you to revisit your faith. I don't really like this dialogue, actually. Mine is always there beside me. Even if the world turned at an end, my faith would still hold true. Though we do get an interesting insight into how the peasants view the 6 gods and their celestial deities. How can I show faith in the 6 or revere the ancestor spirits when they leave us to this world? That's it. You don't understand. Faith doesn't have to be about something or someone else. Having faith in yourself is enough. See, I don't really know. Do these people know what they're talking about? I believe in myself, so why am I still so unsure? Because faith means nothing without conviction. Do you think the ancestor spirits would have spared Ashu if he did not believe so strongly? They gave him the will to survive. Seeing him alive and well, despite everything that's happened, gives me hope for the future. I truly believe that better days lie ahead of us. Right, so we can kind of piece this together. I think a lot of you are probably thinking it. So basically, we've got this idea. There was this Udachi family, right? And there was some tragedy, some terrible thing happened to the Udachi family. Right, the last one is over here. Oh no! This isn't actually the last one. I thought we were at the last one first, so I started marking it on the map. That's not right. We're going to Senji's corner first. But yeah, so we're hearing about this Udachi family lived at the temple. They died. There was some tragedy, presumably they all died, and it seems like Ashu was one of the family, and now he survived, and everybody praises his survival, and now he's got some connection somewhere with the ministry that we're not 100% sure of, and we've also got this woman, this Raiko woman, who actually, in the main storyline, as you probably remember, we are due to meet at the start of part 2 of Winds of Change. But yeah, what we're going to do first is come out to Senji's corner here and run out into the Zangwan Skyway, and this dialogue is actually quite neatly little hidden behind where we were getting a lot of our quests. Actually, you're going to come out here. This only unlocked right near the end, obviously, so like when you complete the second to last quest, then if you walked further down here, you'd find this hidden little dialogue. I feel like if we got like a little reward for this or something, it'd be really cool to have found these small things. But yeah, I wasn't 100% sure where it was, but it's right around this corner here. It's kind of near where those weird scavenger characters are up that hill. But yeah, there's these people who say, why are people joining the Ministry of Purity to fight the gangs? Some people want to feel like they have control over their lives. They tire of waiting for someone else to fix the problem. Don't they understand that they're just making it worse? Every time the Amphar and J Brotherhood get attacked, they retaliate. The bloodshed is always worse. Which is fair enough. That kind of thinking has made the problem they are. People are afraid to stand up to them because they're afraid of the consequences. Would you rather we turn a blind eye? Well, no, it's not right that they're there, but we always pay a price for change, says the peasant. That's the way of the world. So, and that's very much, I guess, the ministry's philosophy. So, yeah, I agree, actually. You know, people have just been pissed about being oppressed by these gangs the whole time. I'm really interested to see if maybe... There we go. Now we're going to Kenya Province. Now we're going there. I'm really interested to see whether in Guild Wars 2 these gangs will still exist or anything like that. I mean, I suppose there's a place for them. There's just... This is, at the end of the day, what we're watching here. This is... them setting up Guild Wars 2's Cantha. This is what they're setting up. This is kind of what we have to see is coming now. So, what are they? What are their plans? I'm not, as I said before, I'm not 100% sure that they've got their own plans in mind just yet. So everything they say is a little bit vague. But they certainly don't seem to think that the Jade Brotherhood or the Amphar have got a place in Guild Wars 2. Unless, hey, maybe an Elder Dragon starts screwing everything up and the gangs rise once again from the ashes or something. Anyway, this is the last one, right out in the middle of nowhere, only available once you've completed all of part 1. You come here and you will see a pretty interesting conversation that really is going to open our eyes a bit more. Yukiko, Muse of Words, says, have you heard the story of the missing daughter of the Udachi family? It's one of my favourite modern mysteries. No, how's that one go? The missing daughter was said to be a rare beauty and a source of great pride for her family, but none appreciated her as much as her father. When the afflicted attacked Tanakai Temple, the entire family was killed, save the young son, Ashu. As the story's title might imply, the daughter was never found. Some say that they have seen her, but that there have never been any reliable accounts. They say she was on the streets running, or that she was taken away to the palace, or stolen away by the Ampha, or by pirates. There are as many different versions as there are tellers of the tale. So, what's so special about that? Lots of people died or went missing when the plague broke out. It's quite a grim thought, really, isn't it? This is why you will never succeed as a writer. You have no appreciation for mystery, adventure, romanticised ideals. Doesn't it make you wonder if she's still alive and what happened to her? What paths life must have taken her down? That poor, lost little girl. It's sadder than any fairy tale. Is it really? And that's the end. So, I mean, they hint at this here. Stuff's going to happen in part 2. Stuff that some of you it might already be thinking is going to happen. If you think back to stuff we've already seen, maybe before we started Winds of Change. They're hinting at something there. You guys might know it's coming. But yeah, it's very, very, very kind of cool. I like these little dialogues. And with part 2 and part 3, Winds of Change, there will be more dialogues triggered. Admittedly, I think a few less. I'll try and do it as we go through the story now that I know that it's not as buggy as I initially believed it might have been. But yeah, there you go, guys. It's cool. I quite like these. I'm glad we finally did this episode. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at the side quest for part 1. I think there might even be some dialogues that trigger for side quests as well, which would be cool. But we're going to be doing that, and then we'll start on part 2 as soon as possible. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.